Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. We have some guests that are just arriving, so if you'll give us another minute or two so they can be comfortably seated, our program will begin in just a few minutes. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to their Faith Moved Mountains. My name is Rob Liebrick. I serve as the president and CEO of Goodwin Living. And on behalf of our organization, get closer to the mic. All right, Judith, any better? Okay. On behalf of our organization, it's great to have you with us, and we're so excited for this conversation. We are honored and grateful that you're here for the second community conversation, co-hosted by the Concerned Citizens Network of Alexandria and Goodwin Living. As a faith-based not-for-profit, Goodwin Living is excited and grateful about our partnership and about the topic today. We're also thankful for everyone who contributed to make today possible. The CCNA team, our program participants, ARHA, and everyone at the Goodwin Living team. Thank you for setting up. Thank you for all the hosting. It's been a really big collaborative effort, so let's give everyone a huge round of applause. At our first event, which took place January 30th, at Goodwin House Alexandria, we featured several individuals who witnessed the milestone moments of Dr. King's powerful I Have a Dream speech. It was an awesome intergenerational experience as we had students from Alexandria City High, that is the appropriate name, okay, yeah, who sat side by side with our older adults and across, just listening with our residents from GHA. It was powerful. And if any of you would like to go and see that, you're welcome to do so. You would just need to go onto any internet and pull up Goodwin Living YouTube channel. I think it's the most popular channel that Goodwin Living has. So I saw 335 subscribers. Okay. Maybe you'll be 336. Our event today is connected to two remembrances: the birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. You're looking great. And Black History Month. Both honor the many citizens of our nation, from President Lincoln to Dr. King and others who today advocate and work towards equality for all. At this moment, I'd like to take time just to sit with quiet reflection in regards to the people who have yet to experience this equality, and send our love and our thoughts and our support to all those who might be seeking that, who might be suffering, who might be going through uncertainty, indignity, and loss at this time. So let's take a moment of reflection. On behalf of Goodwin Living, we wish to express our gratitude for this collaboration with Colonel Jim Page and CCNA and the opportunity to get to know CCNA and its rich mission. There is so much power and potential as people and organizations come together. Serving together, we were able to touch more lives, and we are certainly grateful. And I was just asked right before this, how many of these events are we doing? This is our second, but certainly we look forward to additional collaboration ongoing for the years to come. So let's give CCNA and that collaboration a big round of applause as well. And a special treat, we have Jim Page as our moderator today. So let me introduce him. He's a retired Army colonel, an accomplished leader with a distinguished career spanning nearly 3 decades. So this introduction may take a little while. In international affairs, strategic communication, and senior level operations. Currently, Colonel Page serves as the executive director of the Concerned Citizens Network of Alexandria, where he addresses disparities in education, health, and social justice. And it sounds like mental health is also on your list. Through CCNA, he collaborates with local officials, faith-based organizations, community stakeholders to implement initiatives that drive meaningful change, and has been awarded many honors for his contributions to the community and country, including the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. Please join me in welcoming Colonel Page.
I'm going to sit in the essence of time. Thank you for coming and spending some time with us today. I want to be brief so we can get to the heart of the program. Welcome, everybody. What happens often when we have these sessions, we don't acknowledge all the people in the room as they line up. Missing guys like Steve and Darnell. So, hey Steve, hey Darnell, how you doing? Make sure I got you this time. I'm going to walk through very quickly to make sure that I touch the women who I know and who are friends. Let me first acknowledge our deputy police chief. Chief, thank you for joining us. Please stand up. For all the other folk in the room, you know who I am, so you know how we roll. I'm looking at Dick Barrett, all the folks from Alan Max, one of my board members, Donna Walker, please stand up. Please stand up. So what I'm going to do in the essence of time and being careful not to if I didn't call your name, see me at the break, I'll make sure that you do. But let me tell you why we're here. We live in a city that has the potential, we're doing good, but we have the potential to do even better. And the way we do that is by spending time together. You know, at at our age and our time and at this time, we need to spend some quality time together doing good stuff. I'm looking at my friends and colleagues from my heart. I know every week you go someplace and you do good. I'm glad you're spending some time with us here. So I thank NLDS and her crowd for spending some good time with us. The Peter Corps, thank you for coming across the track to spend some time with us. This is important, what we're doing. We're doing this in 2 months, Black History Month, and to celebrate King's birthday. So that little composite time is why we're doing it together. I'm looking around the room, seeing my friend, Renee Green, Dick Merritt, all those guys who have made this city what it is today. So the purpose of this gathering is to celebrate the city and to talk about issues that will move us to the next level. So what I want to do now is bring my good friend up, let her make us feel good with music. And this is from my church, St. Joseph Catholic Church. No, not Catholic, that just happened. And the sacrament is good too, the breakfast is good too. So Francine, I need 2 songs from you today. Can you help me vote out?
what's going on in our country and for what's going on in our world. So just listen to the lyric. It's a beautiful lyric.
Colonel's privilege. It's our show. Vancine and our friends of the St. Joseph Church, we talk often about what we can do as a community to heal our land. That's what she's saying. And this is not political, it's just personal. So for me, it's images, it's bringing friends together, and on a very personal, keeping our friends, Vancine and our friends. So when I get an opportunity to bring friends together in that snapshot, I want the community to see two friends standing together trying to heal our land. And it's not a political statement. It's the fact that we're all our friends, Vancine our friends. So when our kids see a cop, a good cop, and a powerful black woman singing a song about healing our land in front of friends, there's a story in there, and I want you guys to become the storytellers. So today here, we're telling a story about our land, about this community. Now, we in Goodwin House at Bailey's Crossroad, not the one down the road at least. We're in a good Goodwin House today. We're here to talk about healing our land in a very personal way. So when you leave here, take the image of Raw and Vancine standing together on a warm day together, taking a picture saying that when you see our kids in the street, we've got folk like you who can put your arms around them and help them heal themselves. Amen. So that's why we're here. We're not here to eat ribs and talk about Steve Nelson, how bad the Redskins are. Oh. The next part of the show is a guy called Abraham Lincoln. Anybody ever heard of the Gettysburg Address? If you haven't recited in school, raise your hand. If you know how, if you remember it, raise your hand. Now, the last time we had a session down at the other Goodwin House, we focused on Martin Luther King, 1963. That was easy because a lot of us, especially you young guys like you and me, we kind of remember Martin, 1968, you know, the whole thing. Only a few of us remember Abraham Lincoln. Only a couple guys in the room grew up with me. I'm looking at a couple of them. Looking at Dick Merritt. Dick, raise your hand. I know you and Mark grew up, you and Abe grew up together. I don't know, Max grew up with him. Anybody else in the house? How you doing? I know you know Abe. So I've asked Abe to come down from Gettysburg today and kind of share some wisdom with us. Sir, you ready? Gettysburg, come on down. Talk to us. Gettysburg is in Pennsylvania, up there.
Moving slowly these days. I guess I have to talk into this, don't I? How many of you remember a movie? Yeah, you make movies. I didn't have them back in my day, but a movie with Daniel Day-Lewis portraying Abraham Lincoln. Yes, they said don't go to the theater. I told Mary not to go to the theater, but I'll do anything for that woman. Anyway, something that moved me personally with that movie. Do anybody remember the Gettysburg Address in that movie? Daniel Day-Lewis was sitting on a crate at the depot, Washington in Washington City, Washington City, and it's pouring down rain, and he's just contemplating, which he did a lot, which Abraham Lincoln does a lot. Several soldiers came up to him and said, "Mr. Lincoln, we saw you at Gettysburg. We were there when you gave that wonderful speech that you gave." And I said, "Do you remember it?" And they said, "Of course." And they proceeded to deliver the Gettysburg Address. A couple of soldiers standing there. And I just sat there listening. And that moved me because it moved the people, not just an actor memorizing lines. In fact, I never gave a speech in my life. I never gave it from memory. It was always in my briefcase. And I'd pull the speech out and unfold it, deliver the speech, and when I was finished delivering the speech, take the hat off, fold it back up, put it in there, walk away. No comment, no nothing. I'm going to see if I can do the Gettysburg Address without pulling any papers out of my hat because the words are so important. Are you all ready for this? 87 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is rather for us, the living, rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead, we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain. That this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom. And that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. It happened again. It happened again, just as it happened back in 1863 when those words were delivered. Finished reading the Gettysburg Address. Nobody applauded. Nobody did anything. And I turned around, and I think I said to the gentleman on the dais, well, I guess I must have been a wet blanket. And then they all realized that after a Senator Everett had stood there for 2 hours just rambling on and on and on, that in less than 3 minutes, those words said more than he could have. Anyway, that's it, Gettysburg Address. Carry on.
Don't go away. Read the story. Nobody applauded then.
Some things don't change. But for the folks in the audience, when we had the other session on King, some of the folk in the audience actually knew Dr. King. Anybody know who Wendy Fuller is? You know Wendy Fuller, raise your hand. Well, Gwen and her dad went to the march in Washington with her dad. Fannie Allen saw the funeral down in Atlanta. And Mark Romney was an FBI agent standing behind King. So they had a personal connection with King. The only person with a personal connection with Abraham Lincoln is Dick Merritt and Allen. So when we have these sessions, we're looking for a way to connect you with this guy. So he's going to stick around and pulse him. Find out about Abraham Lincoln. What do they have in common with King? And the thing that's common to me is that they all have a story to tell and to share. That's why Lindsay and I decided to connect Martin Luther King to Abraham Lincoln during Black History Month. So if you look at those 35 days of connection, this is the connection. So, sir, thank you for your time, for being with us. I like the suit. That's good. The thing that's impressed me about this is a wool suit. It must be tough in the summertime. And the beaver hat. We're going to move to the second portion of the event. It's going to be about our panel. Their bios are in your, what? We got the bios. We have an all-star panel of experts and historians. And I'm just going to be honest with you. When we put the panel together, we're just making stuff up. We're just trying to find guys who knew Lincoln, who were historians, who were theologians, who really knew the word. And it wasn't about religion, it was just about knowing how to get the word to our kids and to our community. So the first thing we did, I went to a person who I knew very well, and that was Leslie George. He's from San Antonio, Texas. We worked together. He's been in the Army a long, long time. Am I doing okay? I am. I'm good. I'm good. Lindsay will come up, not to embarrass me, she'll go, get back to the mic. So we have a panel, and we have my good friend, Conrad from Temple Bethel, and then we found Dr. Grubman on the battlefield of George Mason University. Those are the guys who know what they're talking about. I'm just up here to move it. But to put everything in context, Pastor Frank Wade is going to talk about how we got here and about the day. So to kick us off, Frank, get ready for it. We're going to ask Frank to put everything in context about what he sees. Tell us about yourself, Frank, first, about yourself, and then we'll go from there, please.
Thank you. Well, my name is Frank Wade. I'm a retired Episcopal priest, and it's good to be able to come here, as the Colonel said, to the good Goodwin House, because I am a resident of the better Goodwin House, which is just over the hill. So, and it's a great pleasure to do this and to be part of it. The title for today's conversation is Faith as a Compass. As the Colonel said, it's my job to explain how that works. And then the panelists will be discussing how that is manifest in the extraordinary lives of Abraham Lincoln and Dr. Martin Luther King. But to set the stage, I want to ask us to have in mind and look at 4 words: belief, faith, power, and stewardship. It's going to be on the test, so get it. Belief, power, belief, faith, power, and stewardship. Now, it's worth noting that these words are usually associated with religion, but that's just because religious people use them a lot. But those 4 words, belief, faith, 3 of those words, belief, faith, and stewardship, have meanings that are far larger and wider than the exercise of religion or the considerations of theology. I'm going to be asking us to think about them in that wider, supersized context. So, belief. Belief is about an idea. Belief is about something that lives in your head, an idea or an ideal that lives in your heart. The idea that we're focused on today is in the Declaration of Independence. It's included in the Gettysburg Address that we just heard. The premise that all persons, all men, in those words of those days, are created equal. When our founders coined that phrase in the Declaration of Independence, what they meant was all white people of property. Now, that was a big step forward for them from where they'd been with the concepts of royalty and aristocracy. But subsequent thought and experience enriched that understanding to include all people. So when we say that's our idea and our ideal, we are saying that we believe that all people are created equal, period. Period. That is the idea, perhaps the ideal. But it lives in our heads. That's where beliefs live, or in our hearts, for us to agree or to disagree. It's a belief, not a certainty, so it always includes an element of doubt. Second word is faith. Faith takes believing one step further. Being faithful to an idea or an ideal involves action, doing something about it, in spite of the element of doubt. The saying is that belief is hearing the music of the future, faith is dancing to it. Now, many people accept the premise of equality, but they don't do anything about it, in their own lives or in the life of the community. It is possible to have belief without faith. Another term for that is lip service. If you keep going, hypocrisy comes to mind. But it's a common practice nonetheless. If one really believes that all people are created equal and then determines in faith to act upon it, we come up against the third word in the list, power. Power. Power is simply the ability to cause or prevent change. Can you make something happen, or can you keep something from happening? How much can we cause to happen? How much can we prevent? It is said that Abraham Lincoln, in his youth, was on a flatboat trip down to New Orleans. It was the first time he saw slavery in its harshness and its cruelty. And while he was there, he realized that how awful it was and how powerless he was to do anything about it. But many years later, when he had presidential power, he issued the Emancipation Proclamation, one of our nation's first steps towards fulfilling the idea that all people are created equal. Martin Luther King had his own pain over the unequal treatment of people in his day, but he was, like Lincoln on the flatboat, similarly powerless. He was born into prestige and leadership in the African American community in Atlanta, but he had no voice outside of that community. He had no way to speak beyond it until a bus boycott in Montgomery, Alabama, when Rosa Parks opened the door and Dr. King walked onto the national stage. Power, the ability to cause or prevent change, is an important consideration for faithful believers. We all have some kind of power. We all could use more. But every one of us could act on our beliefs. We just have to work at it, and in many cases be ready to recognize the opportunity when it comes, the way that Dr. King and President Lincoln did. While we consider what we can do and what we can't do about our beliefs, there is another important word to consider, and that's stewardship. Steward is an old word for a manager. So stewardship means management. And one thing about managers is they don't own the shop. If you own the shop, you wouldn't say, I manage the shop. If you say, I manage the shop, somebody else owns it. So a steward, we're considering who we serve. Who's the owner? Who's the boss? Who are we serving? Or what are we serving? To whom or what are we accountable for our actions, for our use of power, whether it be great or small? Religious people hold themselves accountable to God as they understand God. Other people have to figure it out for themselves. Is it common good? The idea of social responsibility, the expectations of a group, like a family, a community, a nation. Whatever it is, it must be greater than ourselves because we are accountable to it. Stewardship is an important question because what or who we serve is what holds the compass and determines our destination. That's the background for our discussion of faith as a compass in the lives of Mr. Lincoln and Dr. King. It is 4 words: faith, belief, faith, power, and stewardship. Belief in an idea or an ideal, faith to act on it with all the power that we have in service to something greater than ourselves. Thank you for your attention. I'll turn it over to the panelists.
share his thoughts with the panel. So we're going to address the panel in the context of Frank's comments. And we're going to start with their view of what Frank had just said, and then their own personal views of his comments based on who they are. And a very quick backdrop of our panel members. I'm going to ask them to very quickly introduce themselves. I'll circle back and we'll get into the heart of the panel. And let's start with our panel members by a quick introduction. Dave, let's start with you first.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm David Gerleman. I am do you need me to be louder? I don't even need the microphone. I'm used to teaching in large lecture halls, so I can be a drill sergeant if I need to and be heard. But I'm David Gerleman. I teach at George Mason University. I also was an assistant editor for the Papers of Abraham Lincoln. And so that is my expertise in Lincoln. Mr. Lincoln and I are very close friends. I've looked at a lot of his writing, much of which has never been published before.
I'm Dr. Leslie Dillard. I am not from this area. I actually came in from San Antonio, Texas. While I am not an expert as the good professor here, I have quite a few life experiences in what we're talking about today. And so I'm looking forward to sharing with you all.
Good afternoon. I'm Rabbi David Spinrad. I'm the rabbi at Bethel Hebrew Congregation in Alexandria. I live in Alexandria with my family. My oldest is a graduate from Alexandria City High School. My youngest is a 7th grade student at George Washington. I lived in Atlanta for 5 years, where I saw the enduring legacy, not just something in the past, but the day-to-day impact today of Dr. King. And I certainly live, in proximity of where you, Mr. Lincoln, made such an impact. I'm really interested to dive into your remarks, Frank, and I just want to express appreciation to you, Colonel Page, and to Goodwin House for having us here today.
Good. We're off to a good start. I've got some trick questions. One thing I asked David Gerleman to do is to tell us who Abe Lincoln really was, and also what was he doing in various crossroads back in the day.
Some of Lincoln's closest friends said they never really knew him. He was, as Mary said, he was the most shut-mouthed man she ever knew, that what he felt most deeply he spoke about the least. And what was Lincoln doing in Bailey's Crossroads? Yes, Lincoln does have a Bailey's Crossroads connection. On November 20th of 1861, there was a massive review of the Army of the Potomac here in Bailey's Crossroads, and Lincoln was the one taking the salute. So that is the connection. Literally, Lincoln has been here.
And you published a lot of books about that.
Sadly, no. I've published a lot of articles about Lincoln. I have a lot of books sort of on the drawing board, but that's hard to find time for. But yes, during my career as an editor for the Lincoln Papers, I had the inestimable joy of sitting at the National Archives day after day, combing through files, looking for Lincoln documents. That has never been done before. We still do not have all of Lincoln's correspondence, certainly from his presidential years. So I got to see some very interesting Lincoln endorsements, occasionally a Lincoln smudge and a semi-fingerprint, as well as lots and lots of letters to Lincoln that were often not terribly flattering, containing all sorts of language that we think is very modern, which is actually not.
Growing up in the South, we consider Lincoln to be sort of a hero until you get older. Talk about the Emancipation Proclamation and the story behind that, and the negative side of that.
Certainly. The Emancipation Proclamation is, for all its great humanity, it is a political document. That Lincoln is taking action. If you read the private correspondence, Lincoln says repeatedly, he says it in public, he says it in private, when he's on the campaign trail and in his first 2 years as president, that he has no power to touch the institution of slavery where it existed. the Emancipation Proclamation is issued as a war measure, as under Lincoln's power as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. Lincoln is also a good enough lawyer that he's already looking forward to the end of the war and when the Emancipation Proclamation is going to be challenged at the Supreme Court. That's why if you read the Emancipation Proclamation, it is, to quote one historian's opinion of it, as exciting as a bill of lading. It does not contain high-flown language. It is very much a legal document, and Lincoln intends it to be so. It also was, it doesn't go into effect immediately. The preliminary Emancipation Proclamation is issued in the fall of 1862 to take effect in January of 1863. Also, and this is where I like to trip up my students, I will ask them, what enslaved people did the Emancipation Proclamation actually affect? And the correct answer is beyond where Union armies held control. Because where Union armies in the South held control, the Constitution was technically in effect, and therefore slavery was protected under the Constitution. The Emancipation Proclamation only affects enslaved people beyond where Union armies occupy, and that Lincoln takes plenty of heat for that in the newspapers, both domestic and foreign, that in a sense he's doing the cheap and easy thing. He's freeing people beyond which he has actual no control. What actually ends slavery in the United States is the 13th Amendment, and that is not ratified until Lincoln is dead, although he will he will sign the resolution that is finally finagled through the House of Representatives. That's really the basis of the 2012 movie Lincoln, starring Daniel Day-Lewis, about getting that initial amendment to the Constitution passed. Lincoln signs it, even though he does not, in any legal sense, have to do so. He does it sort of to show his commitment that this is something he really would like to see made part of the Constitution. But certainly. Oh, the easy question. Okay.
So you got some thoughts about, we talked before about your views on Lincoln from your perspective.
One of the things I was struck by President Lincoln is he really is very much like the rest of us on a faith journey. When you read his earlier works, he has, and again, I'm no expert, there is an irreverence to his attitude towards religion. I don't want to overstate it by saying a complete rejection. Again, it's not my field of expertise. But over time, as you see him evolve on his own walk of faith, becomes more and more central in his life. And in preparing for today, was something that really struck me, because I think that in ways that we all have that experience, a healthy pushing away in our younger years, and then maybe a reaching out as we move forward.
As a Jewish, you're Jewish, that's for sure. But Interfaith Council, are you remember that?
Yes, met this morning.
As a member of the Interfaith Council, does that work for the city?
I think so, if I'm understanding the question correctly. I think there's a place for faith in civil society, a place for faith as long as it is a place where different points of view are welcome and none reign supreme over another.
Right. I guess I'm looking at the audience. We've got a mixture of faiths, demographics, ages.
Yeah.
And what I like for the audience to understand is that this panel is not trying to answer everybody's question. It's more of an appreciation for our views.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm not Jewish. That's
We'd love to have you, Jim.
so, in our conversations, Lincoln was not a religious man. Is that true? Is that true?
I think the word you were looking for earlier was skeptic.
Skeptic,
That Lincoln very much is a religious skeptic well into adulthood. and even here again, Mary says when she's asked after his death, well, he probably wasn't technically a Christian. David Davis, who's one of his closest friends, also says, what are Lincoln's religious views? I don't know. Yeah, he never talked about it.
Well, what I'm getting at is when I talked to Dr. Dillard, this is a masterful work for her doctors on Dr. King. King was a religious man, right?
Yeah, I try to separate religious versus spiritual. Religious is the laws. Law. But when we say someone is religious, the focus tends to be on the laws, like the Sadducees and the Pharisees of old, if I'm speaking in the Jewish faith there. What I see Dr. King is a spiritual. It is his personal relationship with Christ, and using Christ as we all should, as our example of how to navigate this life. So from Dr. King's perspective, the Ten Commandments and how Christ lived his life, how he dealt with people, how he spoke to people, how he treated people, is really the focus of Dr. King, and how he dealt with that with respect to social injustice and bringing a community, the community together to be able to say that I'm a man, I'm a woman, my skin color doesn't matter, my faith doesn't matter. I am a human being, and that's really his viewpoint.
This is a personal question for David, for you, Dr. Dillard. Here in our city, just like your place, there's always a need for solid counsel and good advice to our leaders. If you were speaking to our mayor and school superintendent today about things that we can do to address our issues today, what would be the 2 words of advice you would give them?
The 2 words? I can do it in 2 words. So, the ancient temple in Jerusalem, there was a high priest who wore very, very specific vestments. He had a diadem and a sort of what I euphemistically call the holy headband. And on this headband across his forehead had 2 words, and the words were Kodesh LaAdonai. And what that means in English, that means holy or sanctified to God, holy to God. And wouldn't it be something if all of us, from our leaders all the way down, approached each and every soul, each and every conversation, right, and we could see that on each other's foreheads, holy to God. Wouldn't that be something? If we had that in front of us all the time. I couldn't help but experience you and respect you and hold you up as an expression of God if I always knew that you were holy to God.
For leadership, particularly in this environment, it starts with communication. We have to talk. What we're doing here, a mixture of demographics, race, culture, we have to understand each other. It does me no good if I don't know where you're from and what you've been through. I can't identify. But if we talk to each other and sit down and have a cup of coffee, share our experiences, and truly listen, that seems to be in all of the assignments that I've had in my Army career, 35 years. If I just listened to someone else. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to agree on everything, but it is not a requirement for us to agree. The requirement is to listen and get an appreciation where each is coming from. So now I can leave the table and say, wow, I didn't realize that they'd gone through that or where they came from.
Let me leave you guys and go to the audience. Anybody here over 70 years old? You're raising your hand. Anybody over 80? Damn, darn. How many people over 70 think you still have a voice in the community?
say, you know, today I spent some time with David Grossman and David Spinner and Leslie Dillard. And the thing I took away was the thing that David described, or that Leslie described in her 35 years. Do we leave here with a dance card that says, I saw police chief and Maxine together today, and that's the image in my head. And what I'm getting at is, I'm 77 years old, and most of those 77 years, I was a black guy most of the time. So I've seen a lot, and I've shared a lot, and I will continue to do that when I look at my friend Steve and don't know. So every day is a learning experience to be shared with somebody. Yesterday I was in Minnie Howard School, and I saw two good friends, a lady named Wendy Fuller, and some of her friends had young girls at the school, teaching them how to write resumes and how to dress. And they're called grandmas. And I was sitting there thinking, you know, our city's in good shape because these older women, some are over 70, are spending quality time with our kids. And the mayor was there, a young black school superintendent. 4 o'clock in the afternoon with our kids, just like you. But what was missing was you. So my personal plea to you is the next time we get together, come on down and spend some time with them, because our kids need you. And so my personal plea as a grandfather is every time we get a chance to touch a kid, no matter whether it's from the Dominican Republic or Somalia, we'll bring them to you so that you can touch them and share your stories. Anybody here from Arkansas? Why? I'm joking. But we all have stories to tell. So when we get a chance to be together and tell our stories, let's do it. Let's share our stories. Let's talk about being in Germany. David just spent a half a year in Hungary on the Blue Danube, right?
Titsa, I was closer to the Danube's on the other side of the.
So when you get talking together like today, don't take it for granted. Think about who we are and the stories that we can share among ourselves. And when you leave here today, you're going to say, well, hang on, we think, well, darn. You know, today I got to meet David Dorman, who is a world-class professor. I looked at his resume and I was like, what's he doing here with us? Obviously, you know that Dr. Dillard is a superstar in the Army. She's 35 years. She's a minister. She's a good friend. She's a health counselor. So when we look at this room, what we have today is an evolving classroom to help our kids. And you guys are all part of the cadre. All of you. You got Frank. You got Dick Merritt. You got Alan. You got Donnell. You got Francine. And all you young folks over 80. You still got a lot to give. So what I want you to do is when you leave here, think about, okay, you met Colonel Page, the Boy Series. I really want you to be part of a growing network of mentors and givers in our community, because you can make a difference in one child's life. You can, just by holding somebody's hand. Is Mrs. Green here? Are you here? Could you stand up, please? Down at the upper session. She came back the other day and she met a young student. Please share what you heard from this student.
So,
Microphone.
So Colonel Page talked about the grandmother's table that we did at Minnie Howard the other day. There are, I don't know, maybe 15 of us that are meeting with those young ladies, trying to mentor them, give them our phone numbers. The young lady that I happened to connect with had the most to say before we all got together to talk. And I grabbed her right away because I talk all the time. But anyway, she is, I was able to talk to her, find out she wants to be a lawyer, found out that she's looking at 2 schools in Virginia. So my assignment from that is to go back and get her some, even though she's in 9th grade, it's time to look at colleges, to go back and get some information. And so when we talk again, I can give her information and share with her what I know about those 2 schools and whether they're the best schools for her to go to for undergrad, even though she wants to become a lawyer. So it's a matter of just meeting with those young ladies. We want to talk to them about dress. We want to talk to them about boys. Many times as teenagers and even older, we think our parents don't know anything. But if you hear it from someone else and it matches what your parents say, it's like, wow, my parents really do know something. But even if they don't go to their parents, if they'll come back to us and there's something that we can help them with, then that's what we want to do.
Take the microphone to Donna Walker, the older lady sitting there with the shades on. She's very old. Donna has one of her younger students with her. Donna, please introduce yourself.
I'm here with Hattie Jane Derricott, who's one of our computer course students learning digital skills. She's from Arkansas. Only 83. And she also teaches computer skills to our other students.
Please introduce yourself.
Why am I tearing up? I don't know. However, I'm proud to be from Arkansas, and I'm proud of what many Arkansans have done. And I'm proud to be in this companionship because I've lived on this side of the line. And I've witnessed many things. I had no control and no understanding. But I'm growing and learning, and I'm proud of my military dad who got me here.
She's also continuing to teach computer skills, and that's what we're looking for. We all have something to continue to do. So for all of us, we are still in this fight for our land. And I want to make sure that we all know that we still have a lot to give, and we're just getting started. I'm going to defer now to our panel for some closing remarks, and they need to say something good and inspiring. David, this is a personal thing. David has a son who plays basketball at
Rec League.
I know one of his friends I told him at the music concert was and I said, are you better than David's son? He's much better. So.
Yeah, well, my son is more confident in football than he is at basketball, but he is gaining confidence rapidly.
Before you close, can you give us a personal thought about your work with the Remembrance Project?
About the Remembrance Project. Yeah, so the Alexandria Community Remembrance Project, the ACRP, we started it about 5 years ago. In the late 1890s, 2 African-American teens were lynched in Old Town, Alexandria. And I think it's important to tell this story because oftentimes when people tell this story, they say they're African-American men. They were closer to boys than men. And they were not much older than my son, who's almost 12. We have been in partnership now for coming up on 5 years. We being the City of Alexandria, Office of Historic Alexandria, and the Equal Justice Initiative in Montgomery, Alabama. If you've ever been to the Memorial to Peace and Justice, it's striking, unforgettable experience. You may have seen pictures. Each county in which an African-American, predominantly male, was lynched, primarily in the American South, there is a pillar in memorial. And Alexandria City is also a county, of course, and there were the 2 teens were lynched in the 1890s, and there's one hanging pillar. And next to it, and almost like a garden, there is a twin pillar waiting for each county to tell its truth and work to reconcile. These teens will never know justice, even though we know who the killers were. They will never know justice, but we can aspire to tell the truth and bring some reconciliation. I think part of America's healing is just to not be afraid to tell the truth about our own history and own it in a powerful way. I think that's on us and the generations to come. So we've been making progress along the way, and it's not just about claiming the pillar. We made a documentary. We've been involving a lot of kids from the high school. We have smaller educational offerings throughout the year. Of course, we have commemorations on both the anniversaries of the lynchings, and it's turned into be quite a community journey. So for my closing words, I'll raise up what you were talking about earlier, Frank, faith. One of the four being faith. You know, in Hebrew, there's one word for belief and faith. We have two in English. Hebrew only has one word, right? And you know this word. I'm going to take pastoral privileges from the pulpit. Let me hear you say amen. Amen. Say it like you're in a black church. Amen. Thank you. You know, I preach mostly to primarily white Jewish congregations. I will bleed from my heart and teach the best Torah, and then you know what happens afterwards? Crickets. So, thank you. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Means faith. And I'm going to give you three instances of faith that explains from a Jewish perspective what faith is. The first time faith occurs in the Hebrew Bible, also the Christian Bible, book of Exodus. Israelites have just gone out from enslavement. They're attacked from behind by the Amalekites, the eternal enemies of the Jewish people, the Amalekites. They attack from behind, so they attack the weakest. Israelites, the Amalekites enter into battle. Moses climbs up on a hill with Aaron, right, his brother, and Hur. And every time Moses has his arms raised, the Israelites prevail. When he tires, his arms come down, and the Amalekites prevail. And so finally what they do is Aaron and Hur take a big boulder and push it over. They sit Moses down, and they stand opposite side, one on each arm, and they hold up his arms. And the text describes Moses' hands as being emunah, right? So what we get from that is faith happens, right, when we are in relationship with each other, when we lean on each other, when we hold each other up. That's Jewish faith. The second instance of faith is the last time it happens in the Hebrew Bible, the last time the word is used, also in the Christian Bible, the book of Esther. We know the story of Esther. Mordecai, who is either his uncle or the cousin, they're related. He is described as being her sustainer, a different conjugation, but the same word. So from the first one, we get that when we lean on each other, when we hold each other up, we're faithful. From the second, right, from Mordecai sustaining his niece Esther, we get that faith is being a part of something bigger than ourselves. There's no I in team, right? Faith is being a part of something bigger than ourselves. So both of these are action-oriented, right? Faith is a verb. We do faith. We don't have faith. Right? Faith is something we do. The final instance of faith is my very favorite. The Hebrew word for artist is omanut. Right? So we who are faithful master the art of living. Every single thing we do, from the smallest to the greatest, we can elevate it. We can elevate up this brokenness and bring healing in the world just by how we treat one another, just by how we treat this earth, just by how we treat ourselves. So being a part of something bigger than ourselves, holding each other up, and elevating even the most mundane acts in our lives, that's how we do faith and bring faith into the world. Amen.
I don't know that I can. Wow. From my perspective, don't be complicit. We know what's right and we know what's wrong. And if we see it, if we see a wrong happening, we have to say something. We have to speak up. Just as faith is an action, it's a verb. And we kind of tie together here is you have to have the faith within yourself. You see something going on, you know it's wrong, we have to change it. Because when we are complicit and we allow things to happen, you may not say anything. You may see something and you just keep going on your way. You're still complicit. So let's not become complicit. Let's work together as a community to understand one another, to help one another. My mother is 85. She'll be 85 in March. And I love to sit at her feet now that I'm older and I understand why that's important. I love to sit at her feet and listen to the wisdom that comes out of her mouth. Life lessons, things to do, not to do. People, knowing your level of discernment, who you hang out with, who you shouldn't hang out with. A few of those out there, right? But you all have an opportunity. You are so wise. You've lived this life to this point. You have so much to offer. Remember your purpose. We're not here for ourselves. We're here for each other.
Amen. Nice.
Oh, my father passed 2 years ago. He was 85 when he passed. And he is buried in Arlington. He did 38 years in the Army. Thank you. Yeah, I tried to beat him, but I just couldn't get there. However, he was the first African-American CW5, which means in the Warrant Corps. He was at the pinnacle of his career. He started as a private. The cool thing about all of that is he wasn't a man that would even tell you that. He went about his business, did what was required. When we had his funeral, one of his friends told us a story that we didn't even know. Of course, he came into the Army during segregation. And so when they would go places, of course, he would have to sit at the back of the bus. He couldn't go to the restroom where all of his peers went. So he would always have to struggle to find a place to use the restroom. Those are stories he didn't share with us because his mindset was, I'm doing this to make life better for my kids, better for my wife. He picked tobacco. Mama picked cotton. And so I'm not so far removed from slavery. While they were not slaves, they still had those vestiges of that life from their parents and their grandparents. And so that's why I say to you, let's not be complicit in what's happening in our world today. Let's be the voice, one of reason, but also a voice of freedom. Because when one is enslaved, we all are enslaved.
Well, I in no way can follow those very uplifting statements. But what I would add in a small way is if you're talking to young people, talk about your own history. I mean, 99% of today is made up of the past. And if we don't understand the past, and especially the ugliness that happens in the past, if you're dealing with young people, especially if you're a woman of a certain age, talk about your memories when it was young, that before 1970 you couldn't have a credit card in your own name, that if your name appeared in print, you were Mrs. John Smith, not whatever your name happened to be. That this is something I try to bring to my students, where I will talk about, I'm somewhat unusual in that my grandparents were born in the 19th century. And that my grandfather remembered soldiers marching off to the Spanish-American War. And so I will blow their minds, usually when I will mention this fact, and I will encourage them to talk to their parents, their grandparents, to ask them. I mean, I will tell students, look, in the future, 50 years in the future, you're going to have a grandchild come up to you and say, what was it like to live in 2025? What was it like in the good old days when everyone got along and there were no conflicts and everything was smooth sailing? You know, tell me about 2025. And so I will end with, I'll do something very Lincolnian here. I will tell an amusing anecdote that Lincoln always was famous for, telling stories, sometimes off-color stories. That Lincoln once was riding in a stagecoach with another man who offered him some snuff, some ground tobacco, and Lincoln said, "No, thank you, I don't chew, I don't smoke." He then offered him a shot of whiskey, and Lincoln, "No, thank you, I don't drink." And the man cocked an eye at Lincoln and said, "I don't trust a man who has no vices. No vices, damn for you virtues." And so, also don't be afraid to share, as I said, some of your vices of the past with young people. Lincoln was a real person. He had failings. He had problems, and we always have to be careful with hagiography with great people of the past. Lincoln was not all sunshine and light, and we need to remember that as we remember him. Making them godlike, turning them into this, untouchable figure. And there is a movement in certain circles right now who only want to teach positive American history, patriotic American history. We don't want to talk about the bad stuff. And that is a great disservice not only to the young, but to the nation's history as well.
There's a term called sipping from a fire hose, drinking a lot of stuff. So we're getting ready to go upstairs and get some more free food. Before we break out, the Goodwin House team, if you're here, if you're we've been working with them for the last 9 years or so. It's really been a pleasure bringing everybody together. I get everyone about 4:30. I send out emails, and about 4:31, I get an email back from them. She's got that sort of thing going on that I really appreciate. So for our team, we really thank you for what you guys do. It's been a pleasure working with you as the journey just begins. The second thing is, when we look at our personal stories that we all have them, and what I want to do is make sure that we leave understanding that we're going to continue to do this thing. Another political announcement that I do, because I got the microphone, is we have an issue in the city around our citizens. It's called mental health. I want to put Helen on the shoulder, 30 seconds. Helen, please stand up, please. Mental health, please, real quick. Well,
thank you. Mental health is a significant issue in the city of Alexandria, as is in many communities across our country. During the pandemic, we started focusing on the mental health of our youth, but it's been recognized it's multi-generational. Everybody has mental health, and actually, recently, the Surgeon General of the United States talked about loneliness and talked about how important it is to have relationships and connections. And they can be one-on-one connections. Donna and I have known each other for a long time. Richard and I have known each other a long time. But it's also gatherings like this where we get together and learn things and expand our minds, and we're going to all have conversations upstairs, as the Colonel says, with the free food. So we are focusing on a lot of these things, and I'm actually looking forward. Colonel Page and I are kind of hanging out today together at 5 o'clock tonight with food at St. Joseph's Catholic Church. It's going to be a conversation about black men's mental health. And there's a lot of issues that are going on. So in the city, if you're with the city of Alexandria, please contact me. If you'd like to get involved, we have a community health improvement plan. It has 3 priority areas. One priority area, and these were picked by the community members, happens to be mental health. So if you want to get involved, please contact me. Please contact Lindsay. She can get a hold of me. Thank you.
I got you. Hey guys, we're getting ready to go upstairs.
Is this the last word? Oh, fantastic. Let's give everyone a huge round of applause. And great to be in community with each other, isn't it? Isn't it nice to be in community with each other, with people who want to be in community, who want to learn to love more and to head towards a beloved community ultimately, which is a real gift. Thank you for moderating. Thank you for all our panelists. And let's head upstairs and enjoy. Thank you so much.